All right, guys, welcome to our last lesson for the entire year. We made it. All right, so we're gonna throw it back. We're gonna go all the way back to chapter 6. So if you remember, chapter 6 was percents, right? We were working with percents. Right, so we're gonna go back to the percents, but now we're gonna talk about interest. So I'm not sure if you guys remember what interest is. We kind of talked about it a little bit in the year. But remember, interest is kind of like you put money into a bank and that money just sits there, but it just doesn't sit there, right? It sits there and it grows, right? Banks offer you a little bit of interest, a little tiny bit, so that instead of having $1,000 at the end of the year, you might have $1,004, right? So the more money you have in there, the higher you get. So we're just going to briefly be talking about interest. So what we're doing today, we'll be finding simple interest. Now, where do we use simple interest in real life? Well, we use simple interest when we deposit money into a bank, like I said. So different banks are Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase. All of these are banks, and the money in there sits, but it grows using interest. So if the bank tells us, oh, you will be getting 5% interest, you'll be getting 10%, you'll be getting 1% interest, let's find out exactly how much of that money you'll be making, how much more you will get, right? So how do we find simple interest? Good question, right? So simple interest, well, yeah, it's simple. That's why it's called simple interest. It's just one formula. The formula is I equals PRT. So remember, whenever you have variables or numbers right next to each other, that's multiplication. So PRT is P times R times T. So remember, I is just the interest. So the interest equals P times R times T. So P is principal. What that means is not Dr. Smith, right? Principal is going to be your starting amount. Putting $1,000 in the bank, the principal amount is that $1,000. R is rate. It's annual interest rate. Be careful with that. So if it says 12 months, you do not put the number 12 in. It's annual per year. So 12 months is 1 year. So you always go by year. And then T is time. Time is also in years, right? So rate and time is always in years. All right. So example 1, let's find the interest that we earned and then find the new balance. So we have to do two things. We're finding how much money we got, and then we are finding the new balance. Going back to the rate, I kind of misspoke, is a percentage. So we're still talking about months and years, but it's a percentage, but we're going to use a decimal. Okay, so here we have the formula I equals PRT. So we don't know our interest, right? That's what we need to find. We need to find our interest. But that means we know the principal. P is 600. Your rate is 5%, but we can't put 5% into a calculator, right? So we need to change that to a decimal. So remember, you move the decimal place twice. So it's 0.05, right? It was right there. We moved it twice to the left, okay? And then time, remember, is years. So this says 2 years, so we have 2. So now we have I equaling, well, P is 600 times 0.05 times 2. So 600 times 0.05 times 2, you can plug that into your calculator. I'm going to use my phone real quick. I believe the answer, though, is 60. Maybe it's 6. 600 times 0.05 times 2 is 60. Yep. So that means in 2 years, you gain $60. So the interest earned is 60. The new balance, you started with 600. You gained $60. So your new amount is $660. All right, let's do another example, right? So your principal amount is 350. Your rate is 3%, but we don't put 3%. We put 0.03. We move the decimal place over. And then your time is 10 for 10 years. Now we plug that into I equals PRT. and we get I equals P is 350, R is your rate, so 0.03, and then your time is 10. So your answer, I equals, let's plug it in, 350 times 0.03 times 10 is 105. So you gain $105. You start with 350 and you gain 105. Let's just make sure that's right. 350 times 0.03 equals 10.5 times 10, $105. Yep. So your interest is $105. The new balance is 350 plus 105, which is 455. 455 is going to be your new amount, your new balance. All right, so that's the formula, but now we're going to mix it up a bit. So we found interest. What if it gives us the interest and we need to find the principal, the rate, or the time? Well, we can do that also. So notice the next example. We want to find the rate. So we don't know R. We know our I, our P, and our T, right? So let's write down the formula. I equals PRT, and let's plug in everything that we know. So I'm waiting for mine to load right now, and then I'm going to write that down. I guess you can fast forward this part when it's not working. It's in drawing mode right now. Okay, here we go. So I equals PRT. So we don't have the rate. So we have 24 equals 400. That's your P. We don't know R. And then our time is 24 months. Well, 24 months, remember, we need to put it in years. 24 months is, if 12 months equals 1 year, then 24 months is times 2 years, right? So we're going to multiply it by 2. So now I can simplify this. So over here, I'm going to have 24 equals 400 times R times 2. Well, according to the, I think it's associative property, maybe it's commutative property, we can go out of order, right? So 24 equals, I'm going to do 400 times 2, which is 800 R, right? And now I'm going to divide 800. This is 800 times R, so I want to do the opposite and divide by 800. So therefore, R equals 24 divided by 800. So 24 divided by 800 equals 0.03. Now, that means R equals 0.03, but we're not going to put that because if you go to the bank, they're not going to say, we can give you a rate of 0.03. No, we want to change that to a percent. So we move the decimal place over twice and we get 3%. So that's your answer, 3%. Let's do one more example. So I equals PRT. So 562.50 equals 1500 times R times T is 60 months, which is 5 years, right? So right here I'm going to put 5 years. So now 562.50 equals, well, 1500 times 5 is 7500 R. So what I want to do here, I want to divide 7500, divide 7500. So therefore, some number is going to equal R. So I can grab my calculator, do 562.50 divided by 7500, and I get 0.075. And then remember, to get a percent, we need to move the decimal place over twice. So 1, 2. So R equals 7.5%. That's really good. If you ever get 7.5% at a bank, you want to do it. Really good, right? Because that person started off with 560, or they started off with, let's see, $1,500. They started off with $1,500, and after 5 years, they gained $562. That's a lot. They started off at $1,500, they gained $562, so they ended up with $2,000. They didn't do anything, and they made $500 just by using the bank. That's really good. All right. Next example, we could find the amount of time. So if we have the interest, we have the rate, and we have the principal, we could find the amount of time. So we're going to do the same exact thing that we did before, except with this time, we are now solving for t. So t is going to be our variable. And I believe these are the last examples that we're doing. You don't usually find the principal amount. You don't really need to find how much you're putting in. We could do that, but we don't need to. All right. So I want you guys can, oh, actually it loaded. So remember, I equals P, that's supposed to be a P, P times R times T. So I is 720, right? 720 equals P, 1000 times your rate, 0.09, and then your T, we don't know. So that means 720 equals 1000 times 0.09. So I'm not sure if you guys know that. Hopefully you guys know that. 1000 times 0.09 is just 90, right? It's going to be 90 times t. So now I'm going to divide 90, and then t equals 72 divided by 9 is 8. The zeros cancel out. So t equals 8 years. Remember, this is always in years. So if you would have gotten something like 24, that's not 24 months, which is 2 years. It's still 24 years. For the next example, I equals P times R times T. So 450 equals 2400 times the rate, 0.075 times T. So using your calculator, 2400 times 0.075 equals 180. So 450 equals 180 T. Divide 180, divide 180. You do 450 divided by 180. You get 2.5 equaling T. So T equals 2.5 years. And that's what you guys are going to be doing for your homework. Your homework's due Friday. Big Ideas chapter 6.7. It's in the book 256 through 257, 4 through 20 evens, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 29 problems, guys. You guys got this. Congratulations making it through the year, guys. I'm so proud of you. I had a great year with you guys, and I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. I will see you guys later. Challengers, signing off for the last lesson. See you, challengers. Woo!